All right, welcome back everybody to the channel. Today I'm here to talk about why high intensity training will not work for you, why high intensity low volume training will not work for you in most cases. And also I'm going to have my push day playing in the background just for some entertainment purposes. So let's get into this video. I've seen this debate online now in a lot of places. Obviously, this is very prominent nowadays. Big time influencers, big time coaches talking about low volume is the best way to grow. You need to train low volume. You need to do 2 sets per workout twice a week. And a lot of people are just blindly starting to follow that, and it starts becoming this. I feel like as soon as one big coach or one person that's had success in the sport says something like this, then a lot of people start following that, and it gets to be kind of like a cult or something, like a movement, like a cult, where everybody starts following it. And if you're somebody that actually goes against the grain and talks about high volume, for example, you're considered an idiot. So I'm not on either side of this. I'm not a high volume. I'm not a low volume. I'm not an old school guy. I'm not a new school guy. I don't care about, beefing on social media and whatever, trying to tell people what's the right way and then having all these beefs on social media. I just care about results, right? So, and I think that's what everybody should do. What's going to give me my results? What's going to make me grow? And that's what I'm going to go for. And everything else doesn't matter to me. I don't care about beefs on the internet. But in this video, I just want to share my perspective on this from what I've seen play out in my personal experience. And that's what this is about. So, obviously, this pendulum has swung back and forth a few times. It's not like it's this new thing, this low volume is this new thing. No, each probably every 10 years or so, you have the pendulum going from the left to the right. High volume, low volume. 10 years ago, high volume was the thing. People were advocating for 10 sets of 10 reps to really, to get growing and stuff. And 20 years ago, when Dorian Yates was around, maybe it was another way. So it always swings back and forth. That's the first thing that I think is important to say. But nowadays at the gym, obviously, at my gym, I see a lot of guys walking around with their logbook, and they don't really look much better than they did a year ago because I see these guys, right? And I wonder why. Why is that? They haven't put on much muscle, even though they walk around with their logbook. They seem to be training hard. They're even relatively strong, or at least they're getting stronger. They're moving more weight. But the question is, why are they not growing? A lot of them. So, a lot of these guys are worried about the ideal optimal exercise, the single handed lat pull down and squeezing into the lat and then slowly releasing it and then not overtraining, of course, taking a deload every 4 weeks, all this kind of stuff, and just optimal training. And it just doesn't seem to work out for most of these big guys. So, why is that? I mean, I think a lot of times people overestimate their capacity to train. They think they can actually stimulate the muscle in one set in a way that Dorian Yates did, for example. Dorian Yates did one set. Later in his career, I think he did two per exercise, and that's all he needed to get huge. And he trained 4 times a week, and that was it. So most of these guys are actually overestimating how much they can really stimulate the muscle in just one set, and they also overestimate the need for recovery that they have. They think they need to recover more than they need to train, and I think that's something where a lot of people go wrong. So 95% of people are not pro level athletes, are not super huge 300-pound guys. And to be honest, if you look at prisoners, right? So this is a good example. You look at a prisoner that says he doesn't worry about overtraining. He just does 1,000 push-ups, 1,000 pull-ups a day, and these guys are jacked, right? Same with calisthenics. Look at calisthenics guys. These guys do the same thing as prisoners. They get jacked. Obviously they don't have any legs, but that's another topic. So me personally, last off season when I added a good amount of volume to my leg training, my legs grew. So That's the experience I've made specifically with a body part where I can just say I upped my volume. I did 2 exercises of compound presses, 3 sets each. The second one I did even relatively high reps, like 10 to 15 or so. The first one relatively heavy. Pushed them all to failure, all out every time after those workouts. I was just done. I was sitting in my car and I wasn't even able to drive. I just had to take 10 minutes or so to chill to be ready to actually drive home. So a lot of guys would say that's overtraining, but it worked for me. So that's my experience with it. So I think you have to be honest with yourself. How advanced are you really? If you're doing these low volume trainings, a lot of times you could probably benefit from a little bit more volume. If you're not a 300-pound pro bodybuilder that really knows when he's stimulating the muscle enough, when he's under recovering, most gym bros are not at that level. So you probably will benefit from a little bit more volume. Maybe yes, maybe no, but there's a simple test. So let's say you do a set of bench press. First set, you do 225, you press that 10 times. Now, and you go really hard on that set. Now you're going to your second set, same weight, and you only press it 5 times or 6 times. Now you know, okay, I lost half of my reps, so 40% of my reps. Probably it's better to keep it at a lower volume, higher intensity kind of thing. But on the other hand, if you do a side raise, for example, I do side raises, I do 4 sets because after the first set, I only lose about 1 rep, maybe 2 reps on a relatively high rep set. So I know I need to stimulate more that muscle. I need to give it more sets for actually growing. So that's kind of my idea with that. That's a simple test I think that you can do for each exercise that you do, and you can switch this up. This doesn't mean that you do 2 sets on every exercise, right? I can say, okay, on a really heavy set of hack squat, maybe I can even just do 1 set. But if I'm doing leg extensions, maybe I'll do 4 sets, depending on what I just told you. So you need to be a little bit, you need to listen to your biofeedback, you need to listen to your body, what it tells you. Um, of course, each set that you do additionally will give you another growth stimulus, right? So 4 sets are going to give you more stimulus to grow than two, always. That's always the case, even if the sets are not great. The question is just how much extra need on recovery is it going to give you, at what cost, basically. Is it worth to do this last set for the 10% more that you're going to get out of it? Or is it better to say cut it short, move on, and then just try to recover from what you already did? So that's the thing where you have to adjust to what your body tells you and see the risk to reward, or basically the reward that you get from another set or a higher volume versus what cost does it have. So try to see it that way. Don't see it as a religion, as this weird thing that, oh, now I'm hardcore, now I'm only doing 1 set, Dorian Yates fanboy all the way. No, just try to see it as a sliding scale. I can do 2 sets, I can do 3 sets. Which one is going to give me what, but at what cost? I think that's the right way to go about it. Of course, also, this is also phase dependent. So if you're bulking, you gradually increasing your calories and maybe your PEDs. If you're on that side, you will be able to do more volume. You will be able to recover better. So hey, let's add a couple more sets, see how that works out, and then again, listen to your body's feedback. Are you able to take it? Great. If not, we back down a little bit. I think that's a good way to do it. And if you're cutting the opposite way, hey, I'm not going to build much muscle while I'm cutting anyway. So if I'm feeling that I'm overtraining by listening to my body, I cut down the volume. I do just 2 sets per exercise, maybe even one, and I just try to really keep up my strength level and just keep the muscle and go into the show and keeping the muscle that I already have, not try to build much more. But in the bulking phase is another story. I want to bulk, I want to build as much muscle as possible. I can definitely push the volume a little bit higher to do that. So I think at the end of the day, take your body's feedback. Don't go after no religions and all this other bullshit that people say online. Don't get into YouTube beefs with people. Listen to your body feedback. to your body's feedback, write down your numbers, track your progress after with all the metrics, and then you will just see what works. And that's about it. That's all I have to say on this topic. Please join in on the discussion. I would love to have some constructive feedback on this. And that's it, guys.